The church bell struck 7 as Caleb Mercer stood beneath a price card that read, "No land, no cattle, will work." 6 unmarried women studied the men beside the wall. Their eyes passed over Caleb's patched coat and split boots. Ribbons were placed in other hands. Caleb received none. Then the side door opened. Hannah Boone stepped in, carrying a flour sack against her hip. A pale burn mark crossed her left cheek. Her brown dress was clean, but flour dust covered both sleeves. Men looked down at their cups. Stay close to Hannah. Before night ended, she would choose the one man who had lied to everyone there. Caleb lowered his hat brim. Hannah set down the sack and studied the row. Her eyes stopped on his hands. Dirt had been rubbed beneath his nails, yet the skin around his fingers was smooth. No rope cuts, no broken nails. She noticed. He could tell by the small lift of her chin. Caleb owned Silver Spur Ranch, 12,000 acres beneath the San Juan Mountains. His house had glass windows from St. Louis. Men waited outside his office each payday. But every woman introduced to Caleb first asked about the house, the herd, or the railroad line planned near his land. The last one, Rose Whitaker, had stood on his porch wearing the ring he gave her. Through an open window, Caleb heard her tell her mother, "He speaks too little, but the ranch will keep me warm." Caleb removed the ring before sunrise. 2 days later, he left Silver Spur in a dead cowboy's coat. His foreman, Amos Reed, watched him saddle a bay. "What name are you using?" Amos asked. "Cal Ward." And when a woman takes Cal Ward seriously. Caleb pulled the cinch hard. The horse shifted beneath him. "Then I learn what she sees." Amos spat into the frost. "A lie can find an honest woman, Caleb. It can also cut her." Those words rode with him into Ash Creek. He took work splitting wood behind the church and slept in a shed near the livery. He ate beans from a tin plate. He let townspeople see a quiet drifter with 30 cents and no plans. Most saw that. Hannah saw more. She worked from before dawn until supper at the Boone House, a boarding hotel owned by her uncle. She baked bread, scrubbed floors, carried coal, and kept accounts after everyone slept. Her uncle introduced her as "Our Hannah," in the same voice used for the stove. At 34, she had been passed over at every church social for 13 years. The mark on her face came from pulling 2 children out of a burning wagon. Ash Creek remembered the scar better than the children. Caleb first met her behind the kitchen. He had saved half his biscuit for a barefoot boy near the woodpile. Hannah watched from the doorway as Caleb wrapped it in cloth and slipped it into the boy's coat. "You missed supper," she said after the boy ran. "Wasn't hungry." She looked at his empty plate. Poor men should not waste food. Hungry boys shouldn't watch other men eat. Hannah went inside. She returned with stew and placed it on the step beside him. Then poor men should stop lying about supper. Keep that shared meal in mind. Before winter, Hannah would risk her only home for the man beside her. Now, inside the church hall, the winter marriage supper reached its final choice. Ash Creek held the gathering each year for settlers who wanted partners before the high passes closed. A ribbon did not bind anyone. It only asked for a private courtship. Every woman had chosen. Every woman except Hannah. Pastor Webb cleared his throat. "You need not take part." Her uncle's wife whispered loudly, "She understands that." Hannah's fingers closed around the last blue ribbon. The cloth trembled once, then became still. She walked past the blacksmith, who stared toward the window. She passed a widower with 3 children. He stepped backward. Caleb felt heat gather under his collar. His plan suddenly looked cruel beneath the lamplight. Hannah was not a test. She was a woman standing before a room that had already decided her answer. He started to remove his price card. Hannah reached him first. She tied the blue ribbon around his wrist. A chair scraped. Someone coughed into a hand. Caleb looked at the knot, then at her face. "Why me?" he asked. Hannah leaned close enough for only him to hear. "Because every poor man I know has working hands." Her eyes dropped to his clean knuckles. "And yours have never begged for wages." Caleb's breath stopped. Hannah tightened the ribbon. "Come outside, Mr. Ward," she said. "Then tell me who I just chose." Snow had begun when Caleb followed Hannah behind the church. Lantern light spilled across the steps. Music started inside, thin and cheerful, while Hannah faced him beneath the bare cottonwood. "Cal Ward is not your name," she said. Caleb touched the ribbon at his wrist. "Cal is close." "Close is what men say when the truth would send a woman walking." Her gaze moved to his boots. "Those soles are new. Someone cut the leather above them to make them look worn. Your coat is old, but your shirt was made by a skilled tailor." "Why tie the ribbon?" "Because you gave away your supper when nobody was watching." The church door opened. Silas Boone, Hannah's uncle, marched onto the steps. His wife, Dora, followed, with her mouth pressed into a narrow line. "Take that ribbon back," Silas said. Hannah did not turn. "No." "That supper feeds our hotel through winter. People will not stay under a roof tied to a wandering beggar." Caleb's jaw locked. Hannah slowly removed the ring of hotel keys from her belt. She placed them in Silas's open hand. "Then the roof can manage without me." The keys struck his palm. Dora blinked. "Where will you go?" Hannah pulled her shawl tight. "Somewhere my bread matters more than my face." She walked into the snow alone. Behind her, the music stopped. Through the frosted windows, every face in the hall turned toward the woman they had ignored for years. Hannah never looked back. Her boots sank to the ankles, and each step carried her farther from the only home she had ever known. Caleb caught up beside the livery. "You cannot sleep outside." "I have slept beside an oven for 12 years. I know every warm kitchen in Ash Creek." "I know a widow with a spare room." "Of course you do." That almost drew a smile from her, but her mouth settled before it formed. May Sutton lived beyond the feed store in a cabin smelling of pine smoke and boiled apples. She accepted Hannah without questions. Caleb stacked wood by her porch until his knuckles split. Hannah washed the blood away with warm water. "Now your hands match your coat," she said. He watched her wrap the cloth. "My name is Caleb." Her fingers paused. "And the rest?" His throat worked once. Outside, wind pushed snow against the window. "Tomorrow," he said. Hannah released his hand. Amos had warned that a lie could cut an honest woman. The blade was already against her skin. Before sunrise, a pounding shook May's door. A 7-year-old boy from the Boone house had vanished during the storm. Small tracks led west toward Miller Ravine, then disappeared beneath fresh snow. Hannah pulled on her wet boots. Caleb blocked the doorway. "Your feet will freeze." "Eddie hides when his father drinks. He knows me." Caleb opened his mouth, then stepped aside. They rode one horse through white fields. Ice clung to Hannah's lashes. Caleb guided the bay without a lantern, reading buried ground by the rise of fence posts and the bend of trees. Hannah watched his hands on the reins. "Drifters learn that?" she asked. "Some do. Not the truthful ones, it seems." A faint knock came from beneath the ravine.
Eddie had crawled inside a broken ore cart. One wheel hung over the frozen creek. Each gust moved it another inch. Caleb tied his rope around a pine. Hannah slid down first because Eddie answered only her voice. "Look at me," she called. "Not the creek." The cart groaned. Caleb lowered himself behind her. His boots struck loose stone. Hannah reached the boy as the wheel slipped free. The cart dropped. Caleb threw his weight backward. The rope burned through his palms. Hannah caught Eddie by his coat and pressed him against the bank. For one hard second, all three hung above black water. Then the pine held. They returned at noon, covered in ice and mud. Eddie's father carried the boy inside May's cabin. Townspeople crowded the road. Silas stood among them, clutching Hannah's old keys. Caleb stepped toward her. "No more tomorrow," he said. Hoofbeats cut across the road. A gray horse burst through the crowd. Amos Reed swung down before the animal stopped. Soot blackened his coat. Blood marked one sleeve. "Silver Spur's north barn burned," he said. "2 men are hurt, and the herd broke through the canyon fence." Caleb went still. Amos looked at Hannah, then at the blue ribbon on Caleb's wrist. His face changed. Hannah's bandaged fingers closed around the ribbon. "Say his name," she told Amos. Caleb took one step toward her. Amos removed his hat. "Caleb Mercer," he said, "owner of Silver Spur Ranch." Hannah cut the ribbon with Silas's pocket knife. The blue strip fell between Caleb's boots. The severed ribbon landed in the snow. Hannah looked at Caleb as if measuring the distance between his two names. "I chose a man with nothing," she said. "You chose to make me a test. I was going to tell you. Tomorrow?" He had no answer. Amos pressed one hand against his bloody sleeve. "Boss, we need to ride." Caleb picked up the ribbon. He did not reach for Hannah. "Every word you said about my ranch was true," he told her.
"Every word I said about myself was arranged." He mounted the gray horse and rode toward Silver Spur. Hannah stood until the hoofbeats faded. Then Amos swayed beside his saddle. She caught his arm. "How many men were burned?" "2 badly. The bunkhouse sits downwind from the barn." Hannah turned to May. "Fill your wagon with blankets, flour, and every clean cloth you have." Silas stepped forward with the hotel keys. "Take the kitchen stores." Hannah looked at his open hand. "Load them yourself." By dusk, Silver Spur glowed red beneath a black sky. Flames crawled along the north barn roof. Horses screamed inside the corral. Men ran through smoke carrying buckets that froze around their handles. Caleb stood at the well, his fine coat gone, his burned palms wrapped in strips of shirt. He saw Hannah climb from May's wagon. Neither spoke. She entered the bunkhouse and found 6 men coughing beneath wet blankets. One had a broken leg. Another had skin peeling across his shoulder. Hannah set water to boil. "Move the beds against the west wall," she ordered. "Tear down those curtains. Bring snow in the washtubs." Men obeyed before asking who she was. Outside, a shout rose above the fire. The loose herd had turned back from the canyon. Nearly 800 cattle were charging toward the ranch, driven by wind and sparks. The bunkhouse stood in their path. Caleb mounted his bay and waved 3 riders toward the herd's flank. Smoke swallowed them. Hannah ran to the cook shed. A feed wagon stood beside stacked salt blocks. She seized the reins and drove through the gate. May shouted after her. Hannah struck the iron dinner triangle hanging from the wagon. The sharp clang cut through the storm. The lead cattle lifted their heads. She struck it again. Every morning, Silver Spur's herd followed that sound toward grain. Now the animals began turning toward her wagon.
Caleb burst from the smoke. He saw Hannah driving toward the empty south pasture with hundreds of cattle swinging behind her. A burning roof beam fell across the wagon's path. The team reared. Hannah pulled left, but one wheel climbed the beam. The wagon tipped. Salt blocks spilled into the snow. Caleb jumped from his horse onto the wagon seat. He caught Hannah around the waist as both slid beneath the wheel. The cattle thundered closer. Hannah grabbed the triangle from the snow and struck it against the iron rim. Caleb dragged her upright. Together they ran south, ringing the triangle while the herd rolled past the bunkhouse and followed them into the field. Near midnight, snow smothered the last flames. Caleb found Hannah beside the ruined barn. Soot covered her scar. The cut ribbon rested in his palm. "I left wealthy because I thought money made every choice false," he said. "Then I made your choice false myself." Hannah held out her hand. He gave her the ribbon. "Do not follow me to Ash Creek," she said. He nodded once. For 12 Saturdays, Caleb obeyed. He sent no flowers and offered no money. Instead, Amos delivered a page listing every lie Caleb had told, followed by the plain truth. Hannah read it beside May's stove. Then she folded it and placed it beneath the repaired ribbon. Caleb had finally given her facts without asking what she would do with them. Hannah opened a small bakery beside May's cabin using wages earned at Silver Spur. Each Saturday, she looked through the window and found the road empty. On the 13th, she closed the bakery early. She rode to Silver Spur wearing her brown dress. Caleb was repairing the burned barn alone, driving nails with his bandaged hands. He set down the hammer when he saw her. Hannah stepped close. "No poor name?" "No." "No hidden ranch?" "No." She took the blue ribbon from her pocket. A neat row of stitches joined the cut ends. "Ask me properly, Caleb Mercer." His knees touched the fresh sawdust. "Hannah Boone, will you marry me?" She tied the ribbon around his wrist. "Yes." Outside, the dinner triangle rang. The herd turned toward home as Caleb rose and kissed his chosen bride beneath the new barn beams. If their journey kept you riding beside them, subscribe and join the next frontier story.